at the house, as my mother would say, starts at home, and it goes to school, and something in the middle is not there.
Okay.
Just something's not there.
There definitely has to be that element where before a child ever hits the classroom, that something has to happen at home.
Home, exactly.
I can remember that when we were children, if you misbehaved in school, the teachers had no problem with saying to you, you don't have any home training.
Okay.
I think they're not permitted to say those kinds of things nowadays. But the lesson in that was that young people did not want to have that said because it reflected negatively on your parents and what kind of job that they had done in instilling certain basic core principles.
Right.
So, having a teacher say that to you was enough to make you behave yourself. Nowadays, the kids may jump in the face of the teachers. But parents have to do some basic home training about how to conduct yourself before you even get to the schoolhouse door. And I think, unfortunately, parents, too many, are doing shortcuts. They're leaving it to the school to instill some basic things. Now, I realize that there are all kinds of socioeconomic, sociological reasons, economic reasons why parents may not be doing as good a job as they did in the past.
Right.
But there's no excuse.
Right. Discipline is discipline.
Because if the teachers have to deal with a class of 30 youngsters and they don't even know the basics of how to carry themselves around others, then a lot of time and attention is going to be taken away from the teaching and learning process to deal with just behavior issues.
Right. When I first started out building MC Squares, it took me 4 years just to come up with what I wanted to do. And then in 2001, 2002, that's when we did the thing on Barber Street. And we did some stuff in Middletown.
Right.
And we did some other things. But I feel I have a PhD in what I know because this cannot be taught in school. This has to be hands-on. And it took me 12 years just to learn what I know now. We could have got there faster, but I'm glad some of the things happened of the political side. And I don't want to really touch that. But if we took the politics out of education, maybe some things would be better. But as a few people tell me in my group, everything has politics. And this is one of the downfalls, I think, in education. I mean, this is like the most expensive thing in each town or each state. And we still have over 45% of dropout in truancy. We were just grandfathered in the other day by Arnie Duncan. And I asked him in April at Al Sharpton's convention, why would you grandfather Connecticut in? And Connecticut had major problems. He said he had to do it. It didn't make any sense to me. Now we had 15 towns that were failing. Now we have 30 towns now, not so much with black and Latino. Now there's other white kids are actually failing now because of a lack of resources and maybe a lack of time.
Well, I still have a problem with this issue of lack of resources. As you know, I've had quite a number of lawsuits that I've been involved in that involve the city of Bridgeport and its education system. Their annual budget is about $250 million just for education. That's a lot of money.
Yeah, it's a lot of money.
But it still seems to not be doing the job intended, because if you were to look at the CMT scores or the CAP scores for Bridgeport, they're deplorable.
And most of the town is what? Minority, right?
That's correct. Mostly black and Hispanic.
Now, if there was Greenwich or Reading, that would be a different story.
That's right.
And I mean, they have just as much or equal or just as much money to pump into the school system. But when you start looking at a black and white town, Bridgeport is only but 20 minutes from Greenwich. It's right next to Norwalk or Wilcott, not too far from other surrounding towns that are successful. Why is Bridgeport the largest city in Connecticut and it's failing the way it is? They shut down the school system. I mean, you knew about it. You was part of it. And it's still...
No, correction. They didn't shut down the school system. You may be referring to the state Department of Education's takeover of the Board of Education.
Right. But again, we got rid of the Dr. Henrys and all that, but we have a guy right now down there right now just as bad as them, and they can't figure that out, and I don't understand that. Maybe you can help me, the superintendent.
Well, of course, as you know, there's still some ongoing litigation about that at present.
Right.
The matter is being appealed to the state Supreme Court. I'm not directly involved in that
Right.
particular litigation, but I have read the decision that was done by Superior Court Judge Bellis,
Okay.
in which she essentially determined that Superintendent Vallis did not meet the educational requirements to be a superintendent. Connecticut has statutory requirements with regard to anyone who's going to be a superintendent in the state, and as far as we are aware, he is the only one that does not meet those qualifications. And my belief is that we need to lead by example. If there is an educational requirement for the superintendent, they need to be met. Just as we have requirements that we want students to meet in terms of their educational level, then he has to lead by example.
Let me ask you this. You think within the next 2-3 years, will Bridgeport turn itself around within educational?
I really have no basis for even hazarding a guess about that.
Okay.
The issues in Bridgeport, as far as its education system, are long-standing. I wouldn't expect that there's anybody who's going to be able to come in like a knight in shining armor and turn that around in any specific period of time. Mr. Vallis has been there a couple of years now, and despite all of the qualifications that he was claimed to have had, we have not seen any difference that I'm aware of in the educational outcomes in the classroom. And that's the bottom line. Not how much additional money is made available, not how much restructuring you might do of the administration, but what's happening in the classroom. If the educational outcomes for the children are not being changed, then all of this work is in vain.
So, say our kids is going to be left behind again, one way or the other. And I say our kids, I'm talking about minority kids. If this, to me, this is actually something that it's almost like someone getting shot. These kids come in to the 9th grade, they could be already behind in some things. I have no idea what kind of after-school programs or what kind of teachers they have down there. I don't know what kind of qualifications, but what I have read about stuff in Bridgeport is going to take a number of years. And the kids that actually they push along, they're going to be left behind somehow in life. Hopefully that the generation coming up in the next 4 or 5 years, the brunt of it right now can actually go away. I'm praying that it will be that way.
Well, I guess I am an eternal optimist. I don't like to pronounce any dire negative predictions about what's going to happen there. I just want to give you just a little example of a young man who happens to be a son of a very close friend of mine, and he's going to remain nameless.
Okay.
But he is now 14 years old and about to go to high school this coming semester. And so I decided, along with his mother, that I was going to offer him employment for the summer, working for me.
All right.
Because he was having some little issues with adjustment in school. And it appeared to me that there were some issues about his level of confidence. And so I actually interviewed him, sat across the table from him, just like you and I are right now, interviewed him as if he were interviewing for a job.
Okay.
And we decided that I was going to hire him as my technology consultant.
Okay. Big
for the summer.
Big title.
We agreed on what his hourly rate was going to be, what the conditions of employment were going to be, the kind of work that he was going to do for me, the hours of work, and even things like bonuses. I sent him out a letter welcoming him to the law firm for the summer. And he's been doing work for me. Even his mom said that she could notice an immediate difference in how he was conducting himself, that he seemed to have a lot more confidence about himself, that he was looking forward to each new assignment that I would give to him. And what we do is I have him periodically come and give me a presentation on the work that he's doing. He's doing some downloading of software for me, helping me to organize certain things that are technology based that will help me in my law firm. And I say all of that to say that it's a matter of causing the young people to feel that they have something that it takes to succeed. Just finding the right button to push, if you want to put it that way. All this young man needed was somebody to believe in him enough to give him that opportunity. And we're starting to see a change in the way he thinks about himself. It is something that was done for me, and this is just coming to my mind now after over 40 years, but when I was 15, you know, my very first job that I had, I remember trying to get a job at the Denny's.
Oh.
and the people didn't even want to interview me. It was for a job as a waitress, but they kept turning me away. And like I said earlier, sometimes things that others may mean for evil purpose, God turns it around for good. Because when I didn't get the job as the waitress at Denny's, couldn't even get the interview, I got my very first job for an African-American man who owned his own accounting firm. And at age 15, he taught me how to do income tax returns. I was doing returns for individuals as well as small businesses. And I worked for him during the tax season of every year. Now imagine this, at 15, I'm doing income tax returns. The things that, you know, people twice my age were not doing.
Right.
And it instills something in me that I thank that gentleman even to this day, even though he's long dead. But he did something for me that caused me to feel confident that I was invincible.
Right.
That's why I ended up being voted the girl most likely to succeed in my graduating class, because somebody believed in me enough to teach me some things, teach me some real skills, hardcore skills that I can't stand income taxes to this day, but back then, I was doing that. That's what I did for this young man, and we're going to do this the rest of the summer. If we can just tap into what it is about each individual child, that's something that makes them believe in themselves and make them want to go on, make them see the value of education. And for everybody, it may not be a college education. It may be technical skills. But everybody has that innate ability in them, but they've got to have some people who believe in them.
We have about 3.5 minutes left in the show. And one thing I like talking to you is that you always find a way through the looking glass to get there. That's why I love talking to you. It's always, you know something, Samuel, this is going on right now. Read your Bible, pray on it, think about it. You will get there. If you need some help, just call me. So that's what I love about you, because the thing about it is that I have brothers and sisters, but they haven't gone through what you went through. And sometimes you may have to adopt or cling on to somebody else that went through the struggle. Now, even though my background is mixed, I had to go to Howard. You laugh because you know what it is, but I had to go to Howard and Morgan to learn who I was. And I had a professor named Dr. Weiler that taught me history, black history. And he taught what the white folks and what in white universities, but he also taught what the black people. And to this day, when I go down to homecoming, I look for Dr. Weiler. Mm-hmm. You have to cling to somebody. Before we conclude, what would you like to tell the viewers of Josephine Miller? Like to talk to Josephine Miller. If you're in trouble, talk to Josephine Miller. Leave your name, address, phone number. Tell people exactly what you do in the law field. Well,
I have been practicing for 33 years. Some of my employment has been in the federal sector as an attorney for the National Labor Relations Board. Mm-hmm. Then I spent 12 years corporate in-house in another world altogether, working for a major corporation.
Okay.
And then I decided to strike out on my own. Since I have been practicing in the courts of Connecticut